Hey guys, Golic here. We want to thank Allstate for teaming up with the Golic and Wingo podcast this season. Allstate is also teaming up with fans across the country to let them know about the magic of mayhem. Mayhem during college football season is inevitable, be it good or bad. Whether it's a backup quarterback leading his team to a second-half comeback in the national championship game or the countless number of rivalries across the country, mayhem will definitely leave its mark. Simply put, mayhem in college football cannot be stopped. Unfortunately, it's not confined to the stadium. Fender benders on the way home, popped tires, cracked windshields, mayhem is everywhere. That's why I'm here to remind you that in those crazy moments off the field, Allstate is here to help. Leave it to me to cover the mayhem in the game, but stick with the experts at Allstate to cover the mayhem off the field. So get Allstate and be better protected from mayhem. For expert advice, call your local agent today.
If you're watching football as hard as it deserves to be watched this season, you need California almonds. With 6 grams of energy-giving protein, you'll have the stamina for the happy jumps and the angry convulsing. Visit almonds.com and own every day of the season with California almonds.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Well, hope your Monday morning's off to a good start. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, and ESPN2. Again, henceforth, now and forever, the first 2 hours of the show on ESPN2. We're glad you're with us, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here with you. We're hoping to have, besides our double dip of Monday Night Football, hoping to have the final round of the BMW Championships played on the PGA Tour, the third of the FedEx Cup playoff series.
Nice. Wouldn't it be great? I don't think it's going to happen.
The weather forecast
so much rain.
Looks really bad, and they may have to cancel it after 54 holes, which Justin Rose would have no problem with.
No, he wouldn't.
Get the win.
Winner check.
And Jordan Spieth might be crushed because the top 30 move on to the Tour Championship, and as it stands right now, Jordan is 31st.
It's a bad number now.
It's a bad look right now. So, again, we'll see if the weather will dictate that. But it was just a wonderful, wonderful weekend of football, both on the college side on Saturday, guys, as well as the first full slate of Sunday games in the NFL.
Listen, I was, I guess, just happy to have it back. You know, there were some dud games, obviously. You had the weather delay in Tennessee and Miami. The Cowboy and Carolina game wasn't the most exciting game in the world. But, you know, you take that because there's just so many, and you know coming to the end you're going to get those last possession games. You get that overtime game with Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So, you know, it's back. We get this juice, we get this amped up all the way until February. So pretty excited about that.
The moment for me, with about 10 seconds left on the clock, as it ticked down until I got to see Scott Hansen and the NFL Red Zone channel back on my screen, was some of the most excited I've been in recent memory. That was, we all lived through it together, and I think that's the fun part about Sunday is we get to live through all these highs and lows as one big group. Twitter is terrible in a lot of ways, but it is truly glorious when it comes to an NFL Sunday.
You know, you're absolutely right. It can be nothing but a torrent of negativity. But on a football Sunday, it is a lot of fun to bounce around on.
We all almost got to celebrate Browns win.
We're almost unlocking the coolers.
We came so. What did you see? I kind of blame Joe Thomas.
Yeah.
I mean, when it got
what
close,
do?
He put out the video of the cooler where the Bud Light has those things locked, and he's like, guys, I'm like, Joe, what are you doing?
What do you do,
What
though?
are you doing?
Hey,
do you unlock the cooler, but maybe don't go in? I don't know.
You just open it up and look at it, kind of get like the cool breeze from the fridge.
You just crack one and,
If anyone gets a pass, by the way, it's Joe Thomas. Because
correct.
I am attributing, whenever they finally do get that first win, Joe Thomas gets all the credit.
Correct. It'll be all the mojo and moxie that Joe Thomas has given them all the years. We have a lot to get into, including what we thought was the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. We'll get to all of that after what's trending. And here's what's trending. Aaron Rodgers is still the baddest man on the planet. Carted off in the first half with what looked like a horrible knee injury, but came back and said, screw it. I can't hit it any worse. Went back and played and unbelievably came back. 3 second-half touchdown passes, all in the fourth quarter, by the way, including a 75-yarder to Randall Cobb with just over 2 minutes remaining to erase a 20-point deficit to come back and have a huge win against the Bears at Lambeau on Sunday Night Football.
I was amazed at the stat. First time throwing 3 touchdowns in a fourth quarter in his NFL career. That stunned me, as great as he is and a guy who's walking into the Hall of Fame, that he hadn't done that before. Because when you saw that injury, when you saw Roy Robertson-Harris land on the side of his leg and him immediately reach for it, man. Players know, obviously, before anybody, and they can know how bad it can be. I thought it was going to be bad. He's going to get more tests today. I love the line. Well, I couldn't hurt it any worse going back out there. Yeah, you probably could, but you're Aaron Rodgers, and you were losing 17-0 at half and 20-0 before you walk back on the field. So we'd like you back on the field. So you look at it from their side, how great it was, but Bears had to be kicking themselves. They had this one. Defense looked pretty good. A lot of different formations that you mentioned early on. The front seven looked fantastic. Not enough offense, obviously, in that second half out of them.
No, but I think you saw enough in certain spots. You know, towards the end of the game, one of the Bears' last drives, I thought Mitch Trubisky had a lot of plays where he showed a fair amount of poise in that offense. A lot of the mobility on display that made him such a coveted prospect. He gets outside of the pocket, still able to deliver accurately downfield. Saw Allen Robinson a couple of times show up big for them. Looks like the Bears finally have some legitimate receiving weapons for them to use in that offense.
They do, but again, that offense was so stagnant in the second half. I mean, if they get one touchdown in the second half, that game's over. They're not coming back from that. So as good as everything went for that defensive front in the first half, they needed to find a way to find one more touchdown, and we're not talking about a comeback with Aaron Rodgers today. In fact,
right.
Let's say they on that first drive they score and go up 27-0. Yep. Does Aaron Rodgers even see the field? Does Aaron Rodgers even see the field there?
I was uncomfortable with him going back out there at all.
I was too. I thought they might give it a shot, see how it goes, and then maybe pull him out. I wasn't sure. 20, that would have been really interesting if they could have put one more up there.
But they didn't, and that gave Aaron Rodgers life. And look, it was good Sunday, but now comes the real test for Aaron Rodgers.
We just finished up, and we haven't had lengthy conversations yet about it. But we'll do some tests tomorrow. Yeah, I felt like once I got back out there and the adrenaline was going, that it loosened up a little bit, but then, tightened up there in the fourth quarter. I was walking up and down the sideline to try and keep it loose. But we'll do tests tomorrow and give you a better answer on Wednesday when I talk. But as long as there's no major issues, and I'll keep playing.
So again, it's all good now, and then you just wonder what the tests are going to show today, right?
Yeah, that's what when he went back in and he's talking about it hurting more and people see him kind of walking and limping a little bit, everyone's just kind of putting blinders on him. Please be okay. Please be okay.
The rest of that staff, they didn't know what they didn't want to know at that point.
Gosh.
Aaron was telling him yes, and so you saw everyone just kind of got out of his way, whether it was coaching-wise, doctor-wise, everyone just sort of said, you do you.
And understand, you can't do an MRI at the field. They take too long. I don't even know if they did an X-ray or not to see if anything was cracked. So basically, it's just a hand test on how loose the knee feels. So no MRI. They didn't feel anything was structurally torn or that bad to where they said you're out. So a lot of times then you do leave it up to the player and say, because we don't have anything definitive that says it is torn or blown out or anything like that. So you leave it more up to the player, and he was going back in.
Again, remember a couple of years ago, Phillip Rivers played in an AFC championship game, well over a decade ago now, with a torn ACL because he figured I can't hurt it any worse, and I'm not going to be running around
and
anyway.
It's the playoffs, too.
And it's the
playoffs. This is game one.
Game one. So as good as it was last night for Aaron Rodgers, literally and figuratively, the real test will come today when they get that MRI on that left knee. Well, the Jacksonville Jaguars are doing it the way they did it last year. It's all about defense and hope that can take them as far as they went last year and beyond. Linebacker Miles Jack scored on a 32-pick six early in the fourth quarter, and the Jaguars spoiled the debut of Pat Shurmur and the Giants head coach and second overall pick Saquon Barkley, who had 106 yards and a touchdown. Odell Beckham Jr. was outstanding, over 11 catches and very, very solid. But, guys, what I noticed about this game is nothing has changed offensively because they really needed one first down to seal that game late, 20-15, and it was a 3rd and 6, and they did a dive play in the middle. They were not about to put the ball in Blake Bortles' hands and say, go win us the game. Look, the defense is going to be, their front seven and is as good as it was last year, maybe better with the Taven Bryant, the kid they got out of Florida. But the thing that I saw late in that game, they could have said, hey, Blake, go win us the game. No, they said hand it off.
They still don't want to put him in that position. And their best running back was out of the game. Leonard Fournette has the hamstring issue. He didn't come back in the game. We're going to have to see where that goes. They do play New England next week. We know all about their defense, so we know that's what's going to lead the team, that in the running game. And then if Blake can give them some things at some point and not hurt the team, they're going to be happy and let the defense lead the team. As far as the Giants, it was the Odell Beckham, Jalen Ramsey matchup. Odell 11 catches over 100 yards, but Jacksonville still felt like they kept him in check because Odell is so known for catching the ball and running for a ton of yards after the catch, and you didn't get a lot of that. So his stat looks good, 11 for over 100, but Jacksonville is happy he didn't get any big plays against him. Saquon Barkley looked like what he did in college. Some good, okay, and then boom, there you go.
Hit.
Takes that big one.
Yeah, it was just like his preseason debut when we saw the first run from scrimmage goes for over 30 yards.
Yes.
And we don't know, but even going back to college,
you're right, though, Mike.
That was what he was, and it was similar because he didn't get a lot of great blocking in front of him at Penn State, and everyone kind of struggled up front. Now, for the Giants, you hesitate to overreact because it was Jacksonville.
Correct.
The worst possible matchup for what the Giants are already deficient in, which is blocking people in pass protection.
Yeah, and this just in, moving Eric Flowers to right tackle didn't solve any of the problems.
No, it didn't.
That did not solve any of the problems.
The old move to right tackle to protect the guy doesn't work anymore. No. There's too many good pass rushers. Von Miller's rushing from that side. Khalil Mack was rushing from that side last night. There's too many great pass rushers.
Clowney, J.J. Watt, they move around now. They move around now. So you can't just say, well, put them on right side, it won't be a problem. Look, the Giants' offensive line can be better. It was a very tough test for them. Yep. But the other thing that I took away from that game is there's still work to be done on the offensive line for the Giants. And then there's Cleveland. Oh, dear sweet Cleveland. They did not win a game. But they did not lose. They tied the Steelers. And I thought Hugh Jackson's post-game reaction is like, how do I sell this and not be happy or unhappy? Let's listen to what Hugh said after the tie 21-21 with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The guys fought, disappointed for our fans, didn't want them to go home without a victory. I didn't want our players to go home without a victory. So we wasn't able to get it done, didn't finish it. But obviously a tie, a tie.
It's like, obviously a tie.
A tie.
A tie. A tie.
What do you say? What do you say?
We didn't lose.
A tie. And listen, I have no problem with a tie.
Yeah.
So many tweets
it's
again
a point in the right direction.
The NFL and overtime and college overtime. I absolutely prefer the NFL. I have no problem with a tie. But also the story here, you have to go to from ESPN WKNR's Aaron Goldhammer, who said he would eat poop if Cleveland took Baker Mayfield number 1, and they did take him number 1. He finally paid off on the bet on Friday. He ate the poop.
Oh,
and it looked like.
Did you see the video?
Yeah, he retched.
It was awful.
He retched a lot after eating the poop, but he did eat the poop. Took him a little while, and he ate it.
Proud of him. He's a man of his word, but now he's also a poop eater, and we can't forget that.
He is.
Anytime we deal with him,
stick with him the rest of his life, right?
Anytime you hear something coming out of his mouth, just know poop's been in there.
Oh.
Yeah. Poop eater.
How long does it take you to get rid of poop breath?
I tell you what, I'm going to take a whole bottle of Listerine.
Yeah.
And a lot of fluoride, a lot of product.
It's got poop breath?
Literally.
Poop
like
breath?
people, your breath smells like poop. Well, that's because I actually ate poop.
Poop.
So Goldhammer, good for you, although it was horrible for you, and I could only watch about 10 seconds of it, but you paid it off, and now we'll move on. No, we won't, because I'll always be the poop eater. There's just no way around that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we promised it. Here it comes. Let's go.
The good.
Oh, chef's kiss.
The bad.
Figure it out, Wingo.
And the ugly.
My nickname was Ugly Gangly.
You don't get to pick your own nicknames. All right, it is time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Brought to you by State Farm. Go with the one that's here to help get life right, or help life go right. Talk to an agent today at 1-800-STATE-FARM. Let's start positive. Junior, give me the good.
The good, we talk about a lot of debuts this weekend. Patrick Mahomes coming out strong, slinging it for the Kansas City Chiefs. And Andy Reid, stellar game plan, especially early in the season as always, but took advantage of the gifts here. A lot of the run-pass option stuff we're used to, and getting the ball in the hands of the playmakers. That offense does not hurt for talent with the addition of Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill we saw early and often, Travis Kelce. This is a team that is so potent, and with the gifts, with the ability for Pat Mahomes to throw it harder and farther than everybody else, he gives those fast speedsters a chance to go get it in places that they're not used to.
Yeah, listen, he may turn out to be great. I'm just going to give it more time. Listen, I'm just going to. There were at least 3 occasions where he rolled out on 2 of them and had a guy right there, 6 yards down the field, that was going to gain a ton of yards. And he didn't even look at him, and he fired it downfield for incompletion each time. Take what they're giving you. take it. He was a 55% completion, which isn't going to cut it. This is game one, or game two he started. I get it. But for a whole lot of people crowning him, I am just going to say I'm going to give it a little more time. And then you see a little more out of him before I put him in the Hall of Fame like you guys are.
We're not putting him in the Hall of Fame.
You want to see his bust? You want to see his bust in the Hall of Fame before you'll even think about voting
if
for him.
If anybody could have heard the two of you before the show started, you were as giddy as Louis Riddick was about Mahomes.
Well, by the way, Lewis was right about Jared Goff last year, and I think he's going to be right about Patrick Mahomes this year.
One whole game.
All I'm saying is,
yeah.
I agree with you, because Tony Romo was guilty that early in his career. There were free completions and he didn't take them.
Yeah.
And he learned his lesson. I think Mahomes is going to get there.
Okay.
But
when he gets there, I'll applaud him. I'm just going to wait.
That throw he made rolling to his right and just flicked it down for about a 30-yard gain was so impressive. And Andy Reid, his head coach, basically saying what you are, Mike. Look, there are things that he still needs to do better.
Thought he did a nice job. He's got to have things that he's got to work on. I mean, like everybody. So, and he knows that this will be a great learning tool for him as he evaluates the tape. But he made plays. He did it with his legs. He did it with throwing. He did it with checks. And, Gus, I have a lot of respect for Gus Bradley and his defense. And he threw a few things at him. He got him a few times. But I thought Pat did a nice job of handling it against an experienced and a very good defense coordinator.
One of the biggest reasons I'm buying in is because Andy Reid believes in the guy, and I'm a big believer in Andy Reid. So I'm going to be looking forward to this, but I'm going to just, like I said, we're going to give it a little more time.
Doesn't sound like you believe in Andy all that much.
I was about to say, I don't get the feeling that you believe in anything right now.
All
right, so that was the good from Junior. Give me the bad, big boy.
Let me tell you what I don't believe in is the ridiculous landing on the quarterback flags that we're seeing. I get the helmet rule that we're talking about. Who was the kid? Was Sean Williams?
Sean Williams.
Sean Williams
the
from the Bengals ejected. That's what they want to get rid of. That second guy coming in, the hit on Andrew Luck.
Absolutely the right call.
And while I'm not a believer in ejection on a first hit, just like I wasn't in college, so I'm not in the pros either, I understand that call was exactly what they want to get out of the game, and I get it. But the call, there was a few of them, and the one I remember distinctly was Carlos Dunlap from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
When he hit Andrew Luck and he landed on him, he threw both hands out to not put the full weight on him, to kind of get his hands, and the hands hit the turf while his body hit Andrew Luck. And that happened at least 3 times with other defenders as well. In these bang-bang plays, and especially the angle you're hitting the quarterback at, what they're expecting, and we've gone through this with the secondary, how they're expecting in a split second you to change your level or change how you're turning. They're expecting the same thing out of these D linemen, linebackers, whoever are hitting the quarterbacks. I think it is ridiculous. They want these guys to turn and land on their own shoulder or something. I think they're doing enough by not, if you bury your full weight, I get it. If you wrap the guy up and you drive him in, but if you're throwing a hand out, one hand, two hand, to not put full pressure on the quarterback, I think the ref should be like, all right, he isn't putting his full body weight on the guy. I'm not going to flag that. And it is ridiculous, and it's costing teams. It's costing teams that are trying to get off the field, 3rd and whatever. Now it's 1st down and the drive keeps going. So while I understand the helmet rule, what's going on with this landing on the quarterback when these guys are clearly putting their hands out to not put their full weight on him, I think it's ridiculous.
The most interesting part of that game is the way it turned out. Sean Williams is ejected, so they had to play their backup safety, Clayton Fedulum, and he comes up with the scoop and score
yeah.
to win the game after the big hit on Jack Doyle when it looked like the Colts were going to drive down and get the game winner. Instead, Fedulum, who's really basically on the field because Sean Williams got ejected, goes back the other way and seals the win for the Cincinnati Bengals. And now it's time for the ugly. And boy, this was ugly. The Dallas Cowboys offense, the Dallas Cowboys clock management, and the Dallas Cowboys personnel decisions all came home to roost Sunday in Carolina, and in a horrible way. The offense never got going. Part of that, again, because of the problems with Travis Frederick out there. La'el Collins is not playing. So the Cowboys' offensive line, as we know it as this massive institution of greatness, it's not there. And this group is not that group that's been there the last couple of years. But I got to tell you, time management and clock management and game management matters. It was a one-possession game, guys, 16-8 in the fourth quarter. Right. The Cowboys are on the Carolina 48-yard line on a 4th and 10 with 2:18 to play. Why is that important? Well, you have the 2-minute warning, and you have all 3 timeouts. All 3 timeouts. So you have 4 chances to stop the clock. Do you go for it on 4th and 10, or do you take one of the best punters in the NFL that they have, pin Carolina deep, then use your timeouts, get excellent field position, and get a chance to maybe get a touchdown and a 2-point conversion? That's what you do. No! Instead, they went for it on 4th and 10, thus giving Carolina unbelievable field position. So when they finally got the ball back, the Cowboys were well inside their own 20-yard line. They completely botched the game management.
I didn't hear what Jason Garrett said after the game about that either. I'd like to know what he goes. I'm sure somebody had to bring that up to him as well, because I would have thought the same thing. Pin him, use the 2-minute, use your timeout.
You have all four timeouts.
Because, again, if this was a 48-40 game, I'd have thought differently. I'd have went for it.
Yeah.
But neither team was lighting up the scoreboard here, so your defense can come up with, yes, you want them to come up with that stop.
Yeah, and the defense actually, DeMarcus Lawrence, they got a pretty quality performance out of him. You saw Jalen Smith and Sean Lee. Sean Lee, a couple of missed tackles in spots that we're not used to.
But I agree.
Starting to turn, that's not a defense necessarily known for turning guys loose and heating up the quarterback, but using Jalen Smith well in that regard and getting a better performance there than that offense that just looked dull and unimaginative. In a day and age where we talk about all these great coordinators, Dallas is getting none of that out of their offense.
None of that. And let's be clear, by also going for it on 4th and 10, you're basically saying to your defense, we don't believe you can stop these guys, when they've been doing it all game.
Yeah.
4th and 10 from the Carolina 48, and you have 4 stoppages, you punt. You punt and you pin them deep. It's just that simple. Oh, and maybe you don't cut the second most accurate field goal kicker in NFL history, because the guy they brought in, Brett Maher, missed his first kick of 47 yards.
Cowboy colors are showing.
I'm just saying, it's pretty clear that they botched the way that game was managed from start to finish.
Hey, at least Dak Prescott completed 65% of his passes, so he had a good game.
Yeah, okay.
Golic and Wingo.
And Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. You know him as ESPN NFL Insider, host of the Adam Schefter podcast, writer of a book, and also the NBA sideline reporter. Let's face it, there's precious little that Adam Schefter doesn't do.
There's a lot that I don't do.
Adam, let's start with the game last night, because it was a great performance and a gutty response by Aaron Rodgers, and all Packers fans are giddy right now. But let's be honest, until they go through all the tests today, a lot of people are still holding their breath in Green Bay.
They are, and they will, and that's understandable. But the fact of the matter is, again, he did come back to play.
Yep.
He did say to Michelle Tafoya after the game, I'll be out there next week. And I know the test could show something, but if it was that damaging, would the Packers doctors who are typically very conservative, allowed him to go back out there to play if there was something that was significantly wrong? I would think not, but we'll find out.
You would not. And again, they can only do the hand test with it, because they can't do the MRI back there. And I don't know if they did an X-ray or not, but that's just obviously for bone. That's not going to tell you anything with a ligament or not. So all they can do is kind of go with how loose. That's what they do whenever you see with their hands. They're seeing how loose the joint may be. That gives them an idea of the possibility of the injury. You wouldn't think. You pretty much can know the movement of it, these doctors, if something is really, really bad, but that doesn't mean all the time that there maybe isn't some sort of maybe second degree possibly there or not. We'll find out today.
Yep, we will find out, and that's certainly, I think, at the front of the line for news in the NFL, just because it is Aaron Rodgers. He's the guy that signed that massive contract not too long ago. He's the face of a league that's so driven by quarterback play. But on the other side, Khalil Mack coming out with a marquee performance to start his Bear career, and with him and Roquan Smith just continuing to assess this situation. I know it's early, but this has to be something that Raiders fans and maybe even some in that organization look at and go, well, yeah, we could have told you this was coming.
Well, look, there were 4 players on the Bears last night. We'll get to Khalil Mack in a moment, who were not at full strength, who did not take part in the preseason, who basically were limited in some way or another. We had Khalil Mack, who was coming off the trade. We had Aaron Lynch coming off the hamstring. Roquan Smith, hamstring, first-round pick. There was a 4th round, Aaron Lynch, Roquan Smith, Leonard Floyd.
Right.
So the Bears defense is going to get better. But Khalil Mack, game wrecker.
Oh, my gosh.
Game wrecker.
Listen.
That is hard to do, all the things that he did. In the age that he is, 27, the fact of the matter is the Raiders, they just didn't see the value in paying him, which is hard to imagine, but they just didn't. They wanted to move on from him.
Well, that's the thing that I find most interesting about this. I mean, they had one conversation in February, right, between John Gruden and Khalil Mack. So you get the feeling this was kind of where this was going to end up all along. And I would only ask, what makes the Raiders better without arguably the best defensive player in football? That's the thing I can't get around.
Well, It's hard to imagine that, right?
Yeah.
Here's the issue, I think. I'm going to be curious to see how the Raiders respond to this. It wasn't as if Khalil Mack was this unpopular guy within the locker room. We saw the reaction on the morning that the trade was agreed to with the Chicago Bears. The players were not real happy. And when you don't pay or keep a guy who's that good and that popular and that respected and that hardworking, I think that's a shot at the morale of the team. And to see how they respond tonight and the season will be interesting, and they're going to have to capitalize on those draft picks. And they also sent the second-round draft pick.
And a second-round pick as well.
So it's Khalil Mack and a second to Chicago.
Unbelievable.
For Khalil Mack. Now, they got back 2 1s and a couple of other picks. But I'll also say this. This was somebody that the Bears were targeting all summer long, waiting for the Raiders to get to a spot where they were going to be open to dealing him.
And they got it. All right, Adam Schefter with us. Listen, what's the situation now with Le'Veon Bell? Because, yes, James Conner had a critical fumble late that allowed the Browns to come back and tie in the most Browns thing ever. They ended their losing streak by not winning. But the offense and the running game looked pretty good. And I thought one of the most interesting reaction guys all Sunday was when Conner scored his first touchdown. The entire offensive line was there with him saying, hey, this is our guy. So how does this change the dynamic, if at all, of what's going on?
It does not. It is what it is. It's an awkward, uncomfortable, difficult situation that they're going to have to navigate through once he does come back. And I think he does come back at some point in time. Probably sooner rather than later would be my guess, reading between all the lines. But, again, they're not going to trade him. They're not considering that. They have no interest in doing that. They're not going to rescind the franchise tag on him. Not interested in doing that either.
Wait, you just said they're not going to trade him. That's a double negative, so it sounds like they're going to trade him.
Okay, well, whatever it is, Trey, you clean it up the
They're not trading him.
They're not trading him.
Okay.
Not trading
so they're
him.
not trading him.
They're not trading him. Absolutely not.
There you go.
It was an emphatic not redundant.
I just wanted to make sure. I was a little confused.
Not trading.
Not trading him.
Emphatically using not twice. I'm with you.
Okay.
They're not trading him, Trey.
Yeah,
we'll make that nice and simple. They're not trading him.
Do you think, and obviously we don't know what he feels, he or agent, but feels that if James Conner is playing well, maybe he needs to get back in, or he just, I don't think
James Conner, I think James Conner could have been Walter Payton yesterday, and he had a great game. It doesn't affect Le'Veon Bell's thinking. I think when you speak to people around the league, there's a sense they believe that he'll be back by the end of the month at some point, whenever that is, and we'll see what he decides to do. So, again, that would be my read on it as well.
So, we're going to have the one, I'm sorry, Mike, we're going to have the one starting rookie quarterback tonight in Sam Darnold, but already let's start looking at other rookies, and maybe are they going to be on the field sooner than we think. The Nathan Peterman, 5 of 18 in Buffalo, looked horrific. Josh Allen got into that game. Tyrod Taylor, while it was a tie, he was 15 of 40 in that game. And Sam Bradford completed just 58% of his passes, no touchdowns, 1 interception, as the Cardinals looked awful in their game. So there's the 3 spots there where you have rookies. Do we think Josh Allen is the next one in line, and how maybe close these other 2 guys between Baker Mayfield and Josh Rosen may get in?
Well, the Bills will make their quarterback decision this week. You know, it's easy to watch Nathan Peterman yesterday and say, boy, they have to go to Josh Allen. But all we have to do is go back to the Bills' 3rd preseason game when Josh Allen got extensive playing time.
Right. Didn't go well.
He did not look good. He didn't look any better than Nathan Peterman that particular day. So I think that they were trying to save Josh Allen and not rush him along. But when you're out there and you're watching Nathan Peterman, it was hard. I mean, he struggled last year in his start. And there's this perception, right or wrong, that he's not going to be able to get it done. That's a tough spot right now that the Bills look like they're in. Now, again, it's a week-to-week league, but Nathan Peterman did not offer them a lot of hope. I think they were hoping and expecting more. Tough defense in playing in Baltimore against the Ravens. Tough, but that was discouraging.
Well, the other thing that was interesting is, listen, people have not talked about Washington a lot. I think Washington's going to be a lot better than a lot of people have been thinking about. Alex Smith played very, very well, and that defense looked great as well. One of the weirdest and worst games, actually, in terms of one team's display and potential, was what happened in Carolina last Sunday with the Dallas Cowboys. Shut out for most of that game. They lose 16-8. Dak never got really anything going through the air. Zeke got going a little bit late, 69 yards, had 1 touchdown. But it was an ugly, ugly performance. And there were some huge time management, game management issues late in that game where they had a 4th and 10 on the Carolina 48 down by 1 possession, and they go for it on a 4th and 10 when they had the TV time, the 2-minute warning timeout plus all 3 timeouts. They decided not to pin him deep, and that backfired massively. So I have to ask you, not a lot of people talked after that game. Jerry Jones, who is usually very loquacious, hardly said anything. Scott Linehan, the offensive coordinator, didn't say much. How hot right now is the seat for head coach Jason Garrett?
Listen, I think there's pressure on these coaches always, but I think in that particular situation in Dallas, I think that there was definitely an expectation and pressure to win this season.
Yeah.
They have not fared well in recent years. They had the one year where they went to the postseason where they were done in by the bad man himself.
Aaron Rodgers.
Down the stretch with Jared Cook. But when you spoke to people this summer, it seemed to be that there was a lack of energy in the Cowboys camp at certain
A lack of energy?
At certain times.
Wow.
At certain times. There were people that said that. Yeah. I wasn't there. I want to be very clear.
But that's what people are telling you.
Talking to people, yeah, there were a couple people, hey, I was there or I saw this. So we'll see whether or not that manifests itself. Des Bryant certainly enjoyed it.
Oh,
tweeting all about it.
Now, is he hurt? All right, we'll get to the Des Bryant thing in a minute. But seriously, how much pressure is Jason Garrett on right now? How much jeopardy is he in right now of losing his job?
That's a tough question to answer, Trey. Yeah. These coaches always have to win or face the consequences. And I would never want to pin it on one guy like that and say, boy, he's got to win this Sunday or they're going to make a move. I just think that there's the expectation in Dallas from Jerry Jones that they do well. And if they don't, then we see the consequences. And I think there would be consequences if they don't win this year and go to the postseason and have the kind of year that they expect.
Yeah, so then let's get to Des Bryant and all of that, because his live commentary on Sundays and in the middle of game action has been a staple through the preseason and into now. And now that we get after week 1 in the NFL, so those vet contracts no longer fully guaranteed, is this a guy who's going to get even more attention than he already has?
The Browns have been interested in him, and Mort talked about it yesterday on Sunday Countdown. They have an interest still, and I think he's got some interest. And once you get past week 1, sometimes you see a handful of veterans catch on because the contracts, as you mentioned, no longer guaranteed. So I think he'll be in play in Cleveland. I think that they have an interest. The other one that would be interesting, and again, I don't think there's been any conversation, but would Seattle have any interest now that Doug Baldwin has got an MCL injury, and they might need another wide receiver? We'll see what happens there, whether another team decides to call Des Bryant going for it. But Cleveland remains interested.
We talk about in the break here behind the scenes how you guys, a lot of guys here, watch the games in the war room with all the TVs in the game. So what was the consensus in the room of the helmet penalties, the roughing the passer penalty, Sean Williams getting ejected from the Cincinnati Bengals?
Sean Williams got ejected for unnecessary roughness, and I don't believe there was a single lowering the helmet penalty called yesterday at all, not one. So. Again, I think that it goes back to what we talked about this summer, where they were going to implement it in the preseason games, send a message, send a warning, and then lax those rules, lighten up on those rules once we get to the regular season. I think that bore itself out yesterday because we didn't see a lot of that call. We didn't see any of that called. And again, the refs have it in their pocket, and they always could do that, but you didn't see a lot of it.
There were 14 roughing the passer calls, 19 unnecessary roughness penalties. So maybe they were doing that in lieu of the helmet penalty.
Look, I think the
shaping the message.
Yeah,
the roughing the passer, that's always been there, but as Al Riveron himself has said, they're emphasizing that this year. And so when they emphasize a rule, they're really going to be on the lookout for it. And they want to protect those quarterbacks. They don't want Anthony Barr plowing into Aaron Rodgers the way he did last year, driving him into the turf. The Sean Williams play yesterday with Andrew Luck was a perfect example.
Well, that was different. That's different.
He's going down and bam, you pound him on the ground.
That second man in is different than way to the quarterback. And there were more than a few, as I said, where guys were putting their hands out and still getting flagged. Yep. That's ridiculous. Yep. That's a ridiculous call.
All right, Adam Schefter in with us this morning. One of the most interesting stories that people weren't talking about a lot but bore fruit on Sunday, the story of running back Philip Lindsay, the rookie, undrafted rookie for the Denver Broncos. Look, everyone's all in on the Royce Freeman Express. He's the starter, and he played pretty well. But Lindsay was the difference maker a lot of times in that offense for the Denver Broncos. For those that don't know his story, he's a kid that played his high school ball in Denver, went to Colorado, set all kinds of records at Colorado, was undrafted, and boy, he was the one that asked TD, can I wear number 30 as a running back for the Broncos? And TD said, go for it. And the kid showed out yesterday.
He was a stud yesterday. Just watching him, he was one of the big difference makers in that game. And you're right, Trey, everybody was expecting Royce Freeman, the 4th-round pick, to burst onto the scene and be the force in Denver's rushing attack. And TD is Terrell Davis, the Hall of Fame running back that played there in Denver. And Philip Lindsay did call him for permission to wear his number, which is very generous and kind. and thoughtful, and TD signed off on it. And I don't think anybody thought that was going to carry over from the preseason. This guy went from being a great preseason story to all of a sudden becoming a headliner on the opening day of the season for the team that he grew up rooting for. Great story out in Colorado. Great.
And quickly from the young to the older, Adrian Peterson in Washington. Again, early, we saw some flashes last year and then now, but boy, he looked good.
And let me say this, the Redskins have enough other weapons, like Jordan Reed and Chris Thompson.
Absolutely.
That they could throw the ball around, and they just need Adrian Peterson to do what he
did.
Can do.
Yes, yeah.
And be physical and a force, and he was.
Adam, we don't have much time left, but if Ryan Fitzpatrick keeps doing this for the next 2 games, is Jameis Winston assured of starting his job?
If he's going to throw, 5 touchdowns and run for 1?
4 touchdowns passing, 1 running,
Yeah, and if he does that, then he keeps the
417.
But I still think it's Jameis' job when he comes back. He's just looked too good this summer. He's their leader. Fitzmagic can show up at any point, but as Fitzpatrick himself has pointed out, he's thrown 6 touchdowns in a game and 6 interceptions in a game. We'll see which one. But I'm going to venture to say, 4 touchdown passes, 1 running. He keeps the job if he does that every
Part
week.
of magic is a disappearing act, and that sometimes happens to Ryan Fitzpatrick. We'll see what happens. Adam, thanks for being with us this morning, man.
Golic.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
And Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
Love scoring amazing hotel deals? Then you've got to use Hotel Tonight. Forget scrolling through never-ending lists of hotels. Hotel Tonight shows you a select list of incredible deals at hotels you actually want to stay at. And even though the name's Hotel Tonight, you can actually book these sweet deals in advance for tonight, tomorrow, and beyond. Want to get those deals? Yeah, you do. Something better just came along. Hotel Tonight.
Obviously, we are fully immersed in football, and it's a big part of what we do each and every day. But there was a huge story on Saturday that we really have to get to, and it was the women's final at the U.S. Open, where congratulations to Naomi Osaka.
Absolutely right.
She was by far the best player on the court that
she
day.
was.
She took down Serena Williams in straight sets. But, Mike, there was massive controversy in that game where Serena Williams received a 3rd code conduct violation, and by the letter of the rule, that means she forfeits a game.
Right.
She was going back and forth she had some racket abuse, and then there was she was accused of receiving some coaching from her coach, Patrick Mouratoglou, and that led to another point, and then she continued. She called the Carlos Ramos, the umpire, a thief, and that led to the 3rd violation, which by the rule in tennis means you take a game away. Here is Serena Williams talking about what happened.
I've seen other men call other umpires several things, and I'm here fighting for women's rights and for women's equality and for all kinds of stuff. And for me to say thief and for him to take a game, it made me feel like it was a sexist remark. I mean, like how he's never took a game from a man because they said thief. For me, it blows my mind. But I'm going to continue to fight for women and to fight for us to have equal. Like Courtney should be able to take her shirt off without getting a fine. Like this is outrageous.
Okay, there's a lot to get into.
Well, there
here.
is. Real quick, the WTA chief executive, Steve Simon, again, head of the WTA, released a statement yesterday, brought to the forefront the question of whether different standards are applied to men and women in the officiating of matches. The WTA believes that there should be no difference in the standards of tolerance provided to the emotions expressed by men versus women, and is committed to working with the sport to ensure that all players are treated the same. We do not believe that this was done. So Steve Simon is basically agreeing with Serena Williams. As you mentioned, there's a lot to this.
Yeah.
First, the coach Serena's coach coaching from the stands.
Yes, and again, we had our Pam Schreider talk to Patrick Morago, who works with us, by the way, on all our Grand
This is the coach.
This is the coach,
her
Serena
coach.
Williams' coach. He works with us at Wimbledon, works with us at the Australian, and obviously was a part of our U.S. Open coverage. This was Pam Schreiber asking the question, were you coaching Serena Williams?
Well, Patrick, I know you certainly didn't intend to insert yourself in the way that it happened. Can you describe the motion that you made that was interpreted by the chair umpire as coaching?
Well, I mean, I'm honest. I was coaching. I mean, I don't think she looked at me, so that's why she didn't even think I was. But I was like 100% of the coaches on 100% of the matches. So we have to stop this hypocrite thing. Sasha was coaching every point too. It just, I mean, and it's strange because this chair umpire was the chair umpire of most of the finals of Rafa, and Tony's coaching every single point, and he never gave a warning. So I don't really get it.
Okay, so let's be honest about this. Patrick Morago admitted, yes, he was coaching, which is against the rules. You're not allowed to coach in match at the Open. There are certain tournaments where they've started to allow some of that coaching, but in this situation, you absolutely cannot coach.
And his excuse was everybody's doing it. It's kind of like everybody driving 80 and who gets caught.
Yeah.
If you don't get caught, you got away with it. If you get caught, then he got caught.
Correct.
So he got caught. And Serena got the violation for it, which basically this started it because she went to that chair umpire and she said, I don't cheat.
Yes.
You're accusing me of cheating. I'd rather lose than cheat. To which Patrick McEnroe, when he was talking about this whole thing, I heard him and said, this is where it started. He said the umpire could have started it right there by diffusing the situation and saying, Miss Williams, I'm not accusing you of cheating.
Correct.
Your violation is your coach was coaching you. I never said you were cheating. Patrick said he could have started to diffuse the situation then. He didn't do that. She was obviously upset. Then she breaks her racket. That's the second violation, and that's going to cost her a point. And then she keeps going at it with the head
Carlos
umpire
Ramos.
as she's sitting there, eventually calling him a thief and then costing her the third violation and the game. So the two sides of this thing. By the way, she got fined $17,000 for the three separate incidents. $4,000 for the coaching violation, $3,000 for smashing a racket. And by the way, she's responsible for her coach.
Yes.
She's responsible for her coach, even though the coach said everybody is doing it. $4,000 for that, $3,000 for smashing the racket, $10,000 for verbal abuse towards the umpire. So my thought on this is Serena kept this going and couldn't put it away. Because I also heard Patrick McEnroe say guys who have gotten to this situation because we were talking about women and men got mad about it. He talked about Nadal at one time getting heated, but then he was able to put it away and then just go play tennis. He said Serena made the mistake of not putting it away and keep going and going and going. And Patrick McEnroe said that's on her. She should have found a way to end it and go back to just playing tennis. And then Patrick also said that chair umpire was wrong, absolutely wrong for taking the game because he knew the next violation was going to be a game violation.
Correct.
He absolutely knew it. So it should have taken short of an earthquake to make him give that penalty to cost a game, according to Patrick McEnroe. And I think a lot of people, and it was the word thief, when we have seen the Twitter was littered with men calling names out of linesmen and or umpires and not getting anything for it. And Serena called this guy a thief, and it was the buildup of the tirade that cost her the game.
Yeah, I think we need to be really clear about three things here in this situation. Serena, by what she did, allowed the situation to
absolutely
escalate.
Right.
The second point, which I think is the most critical, Carlos Ramos, the umpire, by the letter of the law, did what you can do, which is the first one was a warning, the second one is a point, and the third one is a game.
Right.
But just because he could have doesn't mean he should have. And that, to me, is the biggest takeaway in all of this. I agree with you, Mike. Unless Serena walks up to him and says, I'm going to bash your brains in with my tennis racket, to take away a game from someone in the final of a major on the tennis tour, after having lost the first set, in the second set, I think that is egregious.
Yeah.
And I think Carlos Ramos has to do a much better job of controlling himself in that situation, much in the same way that Serena maybe had to do a better job of controlling her emotions. And I think that's where the point gets sticky, because I don't think we've ever seen this situation happen with a male player where they've taken, in this situation,
right.
Context matters in all of this thing. context matters in all of things. Remember, earlier at this U.S. Open, we had a chair umpire come down and coach Nick Kyrgios to try and who's very temperamental, for lack of a better term, to say, hey, you need to be trying here, which is way over the line. So my issue is just because he could have doesn't mean he should have. Yes, by the letter of the law, you could do this 1, 2, 3. But to me, her indiscretion, her aggression was not nearly egregious enough, in my opinion, to allow him to take away a game.
And remember, this all started with coaching from the stands, and I just mentioned that the head guy at the WTA, Steve Simon, he thinks coaching should be allowed.
Yes, I think it should be too.
Coaching should be allowed, and that would have obviously.
But that's a separate discussion.
It's a separate, but it would have certainly stopped this situation. And other point, and the most important point, is Naomi Osaka.
Yes,
I mean, what happened at the ceremony? That's just such a shame for such a young lady who got her first Grand Slam title and basically apologized for beating Serena because she knew everybody was rooting for her. And it was very nice in that moment of Serena to tell the crowd to stop booing and kind of put her arm around Naomi. I don't know what she said to her, but it was just a shame for that young lady's brightest moment of her career, and hopefully there'll be many more, but it was the biggest, brightest at this point, was basically ruined by that situation.
Yeah, and the bottom line, Naomi Osaka was by far the better player.
Yes, she was. Without question, she was the champion.
That is not debatable. Yes. Listen, Serena is the ultimate champion. I get all that, but I still think, had that game not taken away, I think we're still looking at Naomi Osaka as the women's U.S. Open champion. And I thought the way Serena handled that at the post-match ceremony was very classy, and Naomi had this great reaction afterwards. She said, you don't understand, it's Serena Williams. I mean, like, I've always wanted to play Serena Williams. It was very difficult. I mean, once I got the competitor in me, I wanted to beat her, but, being up there and dealing with that, I thought she handled herself very, very, very well. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. She was clearly the better player.
Absolutely right.
Come Saturday night. So
and
congratulations
by the way, what
to her.
I didn't know,
yeah,
I didn't know the check that came along with.
It's a big one.
$3.8 million she got for winning that.
It's a big one.
Holy smokes!
There's a lot of controversy whether or not the champions' money should be that far weighted in tennis, and it should be more distributed down the line. But
she don't care right now.
No, she's cashing those checks, and I thought the way she handled it was really, really well done.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold.
It's very interesting where that went.
Arizona State upset Michigan State on Saturday in style.
KTAR.
And Arizona State has won it on a 28-yard field goal on the final play of regulation.
Looks like Sun Devils head coach Herm Edwards took the advice of, well, himself.
You play to win the game.
It's Golic and Wingo.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with taking your own advice. Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance, with insurance for cars, home, boat, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com.
All right, Golic and Wingo with you, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Again, get in touch with us. We'll have your voicemails later on today. Who won the weekend? 860-506-5505. By the way, they are playing at the BMW Championship.
Yes, they are.
Tiger Woods has just teed off on the first hole. Driver finds the fairway. So we'll see what happens. Again, Justin Rose has the lead here, and the happiest guy that they're playing is Jordan Spieth, because right now he's at 31st in the FedEx Cup points, and he needs some work to get inside the top 30, because the top 30 move on to the Tour Championship, which is a week from this coming weekend. We'll keep you updated throughout the day. But it was quite a weekend, Mike, in college football. We had some great games, some beatdowns, and some unbelievable performances. And late Saturday night, and I don't know if you stayed up to watch it, our guy, Herm Edwards, was wired up for Arizona State's big game with then 15th-ranked Michigan State. And when you wire up Herm Edwards, you want magic, and you are guaranteed to get magic. This was Herm, the last message to his team before they took the field.
Leave it on the grass, man! Leave it on the grass!
Leave it on the grass! That's right up there with you play to win the game. And they were down early, Mike, in this contest, but they hung in there. They came back. They got a big play from their big play wide receiver and then kicked the field goal for at this point, defining win in Herm Edwards' young coaching career.
Yeah, the last drive just to get him down in the field goal range. That's all Herm Edwards told his quarterback. Just get us close. Just get us in the position to get the field goal. We do the rest. They do it. Time expires. They win the game 16-13. One of only 3 games in the top 25 that were one-score games.
Wow.
This was the weekend of the blowout.
Yeah.
And so
we
there were
get
3
those
games.
a lot early in the season.
There was that one. That was 16-13. There was a game I was at, Notre Dame and Ball State. Notre Dame did not look good. They played like they were playing a lesser opponent. They played down to their opponent. Congratulations to Ball State. They put up a heck of a fight coming into Notre Dame with the battle that they did. And that was a one-score game, 24-16. Ball State was trying to get that last touchdown, 2-pointer to try and tie it up. And the other one was number 2 Clemson against Texas A&M. What a game that was. Turned out to be 28-26. Texas A&M was a 2-point conversion away with like 40 seconds to go.
There were all kinds of stuff that went on.
That went up. This is the one where Clemson went up by, I think, like 15 points in that game. They're still using the 2 quarterbacks with Bryant, and they bring in the young kid, the freshman Trevor Lawrence, but it was Bryant who led him to a couple of touchdowns in the third quarter. That opened up a bit of a lead on him, but you got to give a lot of credit to that quarterback for Texas A&M. Kellen Mond threw for over 400 and threw it for 430 yards in this one. He was fantastic in this game. With a couple of minutes to go, it looked like they were going to get that touchdown and try and get that 2-pointer when Courtney Davis caught a ball, but he got tackled and the ball knocked out of his hand and fumbled it through the end zone, and it was a touchback. Went to review. It was kind of tough to tell, but the ref stayed with that after review, said it went out. It was a fumble, went across the goal line and out of the back. So Clemson got the ball, but A&M got another chance. They scored 46 seconds left to go. 28-26. They had a 2-point conversion to tie this sucker up, man. And kudos to Clemson. They pick it off in the end zone. No good for Texas A&M, but a lot of fans of Texas A&M chanting Jimbo Fisher's name as he was going off the field. This was a big game, even though it was a loss for them. Brand new coach, monster deal at $75 million he's making over his tenure there. And to stick with what many feel is the one team that can really push Alabama this year, maybe 1 or 2 teams, Clemson with that everything, especially defensive line. Texas A&M was right there with them, right there at the end.
By the way, Clemson now 8-2 in its last 10 games against SEC opponents. Clemson's also now an FBS best, 23-4 in one possession game since 2011. They are 10-2 since 2016, and that stat speaks to coaching in my mind, Mike. It speaks to coaching and building a preparation and a program of expecting to win late games. You mentioned the touchback. Is that the worst rule in football?
I'm not a big fan of that rule.
That's 2.
You are a professional. That's 2.
The good news, if you do it third time, you get to leave.
I just turned it off to cough a little bit, and then you asked me that question. I went to answer it right away. No, that's okay. I feel it was a setup, but that's all right. I'm not a monster fan of that one. I'm going to be honest with you.
It's an extra. You're
right there. You're there to score, and you lose a ball out of the end zone. I mean, I'm sure one of the things that it's the possibility or the thought process is fumbling into the end zone,
right?
Even though depending on the down, who has to recover it, but then fumbling out, losing possession.
Because basically you're telling people don't try. You
know
what I mean? Because you're trying to extend the play, get in there, and you always tell your players to do as much as you can. Now, I'm saying that with not having a really good solution on what it would be if it isn't a touchback. I mean, what do you do? Because
I don't know, because it could happen when you're on the 1-yard line or when you're on your own 1 yard. They had a 99-yard catch and run, and somebody hits you right in the 1 yard going in, and you fumble it out. You lose possessions. I don't know what the alternative would be.
Yeah.
So I that's where I could use some help saying, okay, because we're just sitting here saying we don't like it without any kind of solution for it, which is
bogus.
Yeah, it's
completely
exactly
bogus,
right.
but we don't like it.
We're calling ourselves out for it, but there's just something about it that just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But again, Texas A&M got the ball back. They scored. They still had a chance for a 2-point conversion to tie this thing with 40-some seconds to go, which meant that probably would have gone to overtime.
Yeah. It just seems like we're heading towards the inevitable with a couple of these things already. I feel pretty. Things could change, but right now, if I said to you, prop bet, you're going to have Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia as 3 of the teams that are in the playoffs. You
Tough to say no to that.
Right?
I mean, that game, Georgia, I mean, we had the guy that came on and picked for us on Friday.
David Fleming or something like that, whatever his name was, and he said he was going to take
South
Carolina. David Edwards going to take South Carolina.
Brian Edwards.
That guy.
He's probably
Dave
happy.
Fleming does play-by-play for us.
He's probably happy we didn't get his name right since it was such a he called that one South Carolina outright.
Yeah.
And it was an outright whooping at 41-17. Yeah, I would feel pretty secure in saying those 3 teams. Ohio State this week plays TCU, number 15. It's the last in the suspension for Urban Meyer. He's with them again all week during practice. He's just not there on game day. So that's one of the bigger games this weekend. But, yeah, I feel pretty secure with the top 3, Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia right about now.
I feel like we're already at 2 weeks into the season looking for that 4th and final slot. Here's the other thing, by the way. The coaches poll is out, and Arizona State and Herm Edwards has snuck into both the AP top 25 and the coaches poll. They're 25th in the coaches poll.
Right.
Guess who's 24th?
Who?
Michigan State.
Didn't they just beat him?
Exactly. Come on, guys. Be better than that.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
It's a busy time in the NFL, especially for the fans. There's couches to fluff, bandwagon jerseys to buy, and most importantly, getting the perfect snack lineup ready. If you're going to watch football as hard as it deserves to be watched, you're going to need California almonds. With 6 grams of energy-giving protein, you'll have the stamina you need for the anxious sweats, happy jumps, and of course, the angry convulsing. Plus, they're portable, in case you need some fresh air and a screaming break. Visit almonds.com and own every day of the season with California almonds.
Jeff Saturday. And again, I'll be with him later on today on NFL Primetime, but you've spent your last year, all those years with the Colts, you spent your last year up in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. So were you in any way surprised by what you saw last night with him coming back from being carted off the field and leading them back to that fourth quarter?
Yeah, absolutely. I was surprised. Yeah. I was surprised. Listen, anytime you see a guy get on the cart, you are not thinking, you're not thinking that the white towel coming out swinging above your head when the second half kicks in. I will say this, though. Once he was on the field, you could feel he elevates everyone around him just because of what he can do. And his teammates are looking him in the eye, understanding he can barely put pressure on his left leg. He's fighting through this thing, and he's still out there slinging this thing around. Let me tell you something. That inspires guys. I mean, set aside how much money the guy just got paid. His leg is killing him, and he's coming out, and he's still all in with us. Man, and he's showing up and making plays. And by the way, he wasn't early on. He got rid of the ball pretty quick. Then he started holding it after he got called for intentional grounding. Right. Once that play happened, man, he was like, "Look, I'm going to take shots," and it was impressive. You watched how calm, how poised he was in it. And then let's just say this, man, his receivers, whether it be Adams, whether it be Allison, whether it be Cobby making the play at the end, those guys made some nasty plays after they caught it.
That's the thing.
It was absolutely impressive all the way around.
And one of the ways they can do nasty things after they catch it on where the ball is.
Yes, sir.
And Aaron Rodgers isn't hanging him out to dry, isn't making him turn, twist, go low. He's putting it right in stride. And as far as the injury, I was just trying to, and you maybe take it further if you want to explain to people, in this day and age where players are protected a little more and held out more because if you see something definitive with the knee, as I said, there's no MRI machine in the locker room. So it's all just really the doctors moving that knee around. So a lot of it falls back on the player.
Absolutely.
Saying, okay, it hurts a little bit and sore, but I'm good to go. I'm good to play. Because he's going to be sore as hell today. Oh. God knows what that MRI will reveal. But it's a situation where that kind of an injury is really kind of up to the player and how well he feels and how much pain he can take.
You're 100% right. You walk in, and when you sit down, like you said, I mean, X-ray is the only thing they got in that stadium that they're really concerned with. They're not doing that. They come in, they give the little twist on the knee. How do you feel? He's telling them, I'm going back, Doc. Right. I mean, that's telling you the mindset of Aaron. I tell people all the time, the thing that's the most understated about Aaron Rodgers, because you don't really see it in him. You know, he has these little nuances, right? Like he'll give you a little gun point, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or the little, he looks under himself. He wants to cut your heart out, man. I mean, he is about the business of dominating people, and he loves making throws and making plays that no one thinks he can make. And so when he's hurt and he's a wounded animal like he was, he's coming out. The next thing you know, man, he's putting the ball, like you said, right in stride. It's not he's barely getting it done. He's out there. It's just a heroic. He is still performing at a level that no one believes he can get done. And listen, for everything else, man, the Bears tried, right? I mean, they brought on the last play to Cobb, they bring the blitz. Now, I think Mac got confused. Either the Mac or the backer got confused. When the back went out, both of them chased him. If one more guy comes in, he didn't have that much time to move to his left. But irrespective of that, man, he's moving to his bad leg and still throws it on time to Cobb, who's cutting across to his right. Those are the throws. When I was in practice, it blew me away. I mean, you can't imagine how hard it is to be off schedule as much as their offense is and how much pressure that puts on the quarterback. And it's like, He's just walking in the park on a Sunday, man, just checking out the birds, there is it's a thing of beauty, man. I mean, it really is. The way he plays the game, it inspires guys. I loved watching it last night.
Well, as he said all those years ago, Packer fans relax. R-E-L-A-X.
Exactly.
They'll relax after the MRI today.
For sure.
We'll find out. It's trending, as Jim Furyk likes to say, but let's just make sure we get through that MRI.
I'm kind of wondering, because most of your career was snapping the ball to Peyton Manning, and then you did have the year with Aaron. Is there a difference? What's the biggest difference of those two guys? Two guys that obviously are walking into the Hall of Fame. You got to snap to both of them. Is there
one is completely on schedule? Yeah, I mean, Peyton is type A. Like when the guy comes out of his break, the ball is going to be there. He doesn't have it was never a velocity game for his arm, right? He was going to put it where it needed to be placed before the guy ever comes out of his break. Aaron's completely opposite. Most plays are not as scripted. Like, whatever play you go in with, if you look at the timing of their offense, so much of it is him hesitating, moving, avoiding, and the next thing you know, he's watching. But they practice it now. Like when we were in Green Bay, they would have an extend the drill, an extend the play drill. Right. And as we did it, you would have to hold your block an extra second, and you're trying to push it off, and then the receivers convert their routes. They do it. They have a period dedicated to that, and it shows, man, because that's where receivers make plays, and Aaron does the things which are magical, not on script, just doing things outside of the game.
How about their presence in the huddle? How about how they run a huddle? Were they different?
Yeah. Well, Peyton wanted to be at the line so he could see everything. He wanted to use the snap count a whole bunch. Aaron is more of kind of a muddle huddle. He wants to bring everybody in. He wants to see everybody's eyes, kind of give everybody last minute, hey, hold up a little bit extra here. I may roll here. So he's more communicative in that sense. And then when he gets to the line, he will nail you. Listen, Aaron is as good as anybody nailing you with the snap count. His voice inflection, man, and the minute that you see any movement, he wants the ball, whereas Peyton did not. He wanted to draw him off sides, but he didn't want any free runners. Aaron wants to be able to avoid that free runner and throw that ball 75 yards in the air to somebody. He's going. Just a little toss, man.
They took that away this year. Did you see there was a couple plays like that where the offside's a hard count, but they're blowing the whistle.
They're stopping them.
They're stopping it out, much to the chagrin of the quarterbacks. Hey, sorry, guys, you can't have everything your way.
Exactly. Hey, D-lineman, salty.
Seriously?
Let's play salty in here.
Throw the defensive bone every once in a while.
Offense sells tickets, Golic. Good gosh,
whatever.
Man.
Oh, he landed on him a little bit. Throw the flag and eject him.
That was dirty. Listen, those Myles Garrett, that is. Awful. If you talk about the biggest quarterback who can, what are you going to do to Ben Roethlisberger, man? The guy will shuck off half the football team. I just want to say,
my point on those had been Dunlap the same way, Garrett. These guys, when they're landing, they're putting their hands out.
Right.
It's not like my buddy Clyde Simmons who would tuck, suck, and drop. They're putting their hands out to try and they're still getting flagged. I don't know what the hell they expect them to do.
Listen, they're playing perfect defense. It's a bogus call. As an offensive lineman, I'm not mad. I'll take the 15 yards, but it's a little rough on the defensive lineman right now.
All right, our NFL analyst Jeff Saturday now as an offensive lineman, I want to get your perspective on a couple of things. Let's stay in that one game first and foremost. As an offensive lineman, seeing Khalil Mack on that defense, how much of a problem is he and that entire front seven going to be all season long?
Listen, with 1 week of practice, look what he did. The guy took it over. And when Aaron went down, he's clearly the best player on the field, right? You see what he has and what he can do. And listen, here's the thing that makes him unique. His rush to power. So when he's going to speed and then transitions to power, he's extremely strong, right? But he can do it the other way. He can power you, and then when you go to sit your hips down, he'll rip around you, and he can still accelerate to the quarterback. So, and you saw his awareness last night, the strips, all the different things that he has. The guy is a unique talent, and what he's going to bring to the Bears, he's going to allow their back end to progress much faster, because when you're putting pressure on, all of a sudden you can be a little more aggressive on the back end. And you saw a little bit of that last night. And again, this is week one, man. He's got a ton to work on. Again, not every call is going to be perfect. Not every defensive they ran was awesome. But listen, the guy is absolutely a legitimate factor, and he's an impact on the game. And I guarantee you last night they had calls on plays that were the Matt call. Because when I played in Green Bay, we had a Peppers call where we were sliding to Peppers no matter where he was. 2-jet, 3-jet, it didn't matter. Wherever he is, go help your guy. I guarantee you they had some of that going on last night as well.
Some dominant pass rushing performances by Mack, by Von Miller, by Myles Garrett, by T.J. Watt, who led the way with 4. So all pretty impressive on that side. Talk about the locker room for the Pittsburgh Steelers now. James Conner just has a huge game for him. He has as many total yards as Le'Veon Bell had last year. So, and we saw in that first touchdown all the old linemen really be extra exuberant
for sure.
to Conner. Connor's no doubt about that. So, what do you think the atmosphere is like in that locker room, and then when Le'Veon Bell walks back in to that locker room?
Well, first of all, I think they were way out of line. I'm just going to say that right now, to ever talk about Bell's contract.
100% agree.
Right? I mean, did that shock you as much as it shocked us?
Absolutely.
You just don't go there.
No,
Stunning.
You do not go there. So I didn't like that at all. Let me just say this because everybody's going to talk about Conner, and the guy played fantastic football.
Yes, he did.
It's still not the same impact as Le'Veon Bell in the backfield. And I'll just tell you, because I'm going to talk about it on prime time today, but you will see Cleveland could play a lot of cover two, which means you're going to allow them to run the football, right? Like fans may not understand what that, but that means you're taking a guy essentially out of the box and you're going to put him over the back end to stop, AB and Ben Roethlisberger, and you're going to allow the run game to be efficient.
Basically, what he's saying is when you have the cover two back there, you're saying, go ahead and run the ball.
Exactly.
We're going to cover your guys. Go ahead and run the ball. When Le'Veon Bell's in there,
that's
you're
right.
less apt to do that, correct?
And let's not talk about when Bell's in the backfield and they motion to empty, and all of a sudden you have a defensive, a personnel group in there that has to match up with a running back as opposed to Switzer being in there from UNC, by the way. But if Switzer in there,
they traded twice this offseason, by the way.
Well, let's not go there. So, but as you're looking at it, your personnel and your groupings are completely different because you're not afraid of the running back. And then what Bell can give you over the middle when he chips a guy, because he's as good as there is in picking up the blitz. He chips a guy, next thing you know, he turns around. So whatever you want to say about Bell and his contract and all those things, Conner did play fantastic, and he's going to be a great back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not trying to minimize what he did. Bell being there would have helped them win that game. Yeah. I'm just telling you, I don't care what anybody else says. I'm telling you, it changes, it impacts whether you're a fan and you love him or hate him. His impact was felt by the Pittsburgh Steelers because their offense can't be exactly what it was and as productive as it would be if Bell were in the game.
All right, Jeff Saturday here with us. Let's break down a couple of other things. The Giants tried to reshape their offensive line. Saquon Barkley did what basically did in college. He gets bottled up a lot, then he makes the big play.
Right.
Obviously, they're going to want him to be more consistent in those 4, 5, 6-yard gains going forward. But I understand the caveat here. It was against Jacksonville's front seven, which might be just as good as better than anybody else in football right now. What did you make of Solder, Will Hernandez on the left side, and Eric Flowers still struggling on the right side?
Yeah, listen. I said this last night, and my Twitter blew up because I said the Giants O-line actually didn't play bad. I mean, they didn't play. Listen, they're playing the best in the NFL. Right. And by the way, those guys over there, they're rotating, they're moving. I mean, linebackers can be passers. Listen, this is an exceptional.
Right,
it's an exceptional defense. I was impressed that they kept them in the game. And again, Barkley did exactly what he always does. Like Wingo, you just said. He's going to get bottle, but all of a sudden he bends it back and it's blocked well. I mean, he doesn't get touched until he gets right past the line of scrimmage and then he takes it outside and makes big plays. I will be honest, in the game, I thought Eli at times got rid of the ball too early, didn't let plays develop because OBJ was open and he was open deep a few times and the check down was there before it. I didn't love that. I think he got in his head, I better get the ball up. Now again, maybe that's coaching. Maybe that was we're afraid these guys are going to get to you. Make sure on 2 or 3 the ball's out of your hand. But OBJ, listen, he worked Ramsey a pretty decent amount. He had some nasty routes in there. And if you look at it collectively, I would say, did the Giants' offensive line dominate? By no means. But did they hold their own against the best in the NFL? Much better than they have in the past. And even Flowers, man, on the one play that's like the tip and Miles Jack gets it, that's a pretty fantastic move, man. Yeah. I mean, the stab, we see a lot of corners get beat by great wide receivers. Everybody's like, oh, it was just a good move. That's a great move by the guy on the edge, man. I mean, I don't care how good Eric Flowers is, how good most right tackle is going to fall for that. They're going to bite out and then get beat. So it is what it is. But I thought their line as a whole looked better to me than they had in the past.
So looking ahead to tonight, a doubleheader tonight, in that first game, because it's a rookie starting for the Jets, Matt Patricia, head coach of the Detroit Lions, is a defensive guy. What, if you're him, if you're in his position, what are you dialing up as a defense of scheme to go against a rookie quarterback?
Yeah, many overload blitzes I can get in. I mean, just give him things that he
explain that to everybody.
Okay, so that means you're going to bring more to one side than they're going to have blockers. So you're trying to get a free runner every time, which means the ball has to come out either to the hot route or he's going to have to make an adjustment for protection. But I would give him as much as and I know Todd Bowles talks about it. He's given him a ton in practice. But the reality is, he said it in the same articles that I've read, he messes it up some, but he may not make the same mistake twice, so don't give it to him the same way. Keep bringing but give yourself a free runner where the decision has to be made either to pick it up by trying to change the protection, which for a rookie is going to be difficult, right, or you're going to have a free runner and the ball's got to come out. I'm going to tell you, it ain't college. That guy who, ran the 4.6 now runs a 4.3, and next thing you know, he's in your kitchen, right? So the impact of all that, and it's not preseason, by the way. So all preseason stuff is out. Those guys now, they're bringing it all in. Those linemen who you just try to get a rush move, they're now holding the tackle so that edge is even shorter, okay? So there's a lot of things going on. Defensive linemen cheat. We all know it. So that's what's going to happen tonight. Just understand it. Don't get the ball out of your hand.
We have to cheat now or we get flagged. If we don't cheat, what are we going to do anymore?
That's fair, although you did it when the rules were still in your favor.
That's exactly right.
I had to.
There you go. All right, Jess Saturday with us. Let's end this segment where we started, talking about Khalil Mack. We saw what happened there. The Raiders players saw what happened Sunday night, and they take the field tonight without him, facing a Rams team who paid their guy, Aaron Donald. How important is it for this Raiders team to get off to a hot start? Because otherwise, they're going to be thinking about what happened and what got left away.
No, absolutely. Didn't the Rams try to get him too?
Yeah.
So, as you're looking
they're
at
all in on everybody.
Everybody. No, I think you're exactly right. I think in the locker room, here's the part that hurts you the most. You're a player who's been impactful in the field, impactful in the community, and you do it right. You do it the right way. And your team basically says, nah, you're not the guy we want. We drafted you here. You've done everything we've had. So what does everybody else in that locker room think? I can play as good as I want to play. I can be the ultimate Raider, and ultimately they're going to let me walk because my number's not exactly what they want. That is not a good sign for your locker room. I don't care. So you better come out guns blazing and making all kind of plays and win a whole bunch of games so guys forget in a hurry, because if you don't, you're losing your locker room moment by moment. Because, again, when guys put it in and do it the right way and teams don't honor it, you feel like you've been betrayed. And I don't care what any fan says, that's how you feel in the locker room because you've done everything they've asked. And again, it's a slap in the face. No, we're going to let someone else go pay you, across the coast.
Yeah, listen, it's September. Normally we say don't worry about September, worry about December. September is a big month for the Raiders organization.
Amen to that.
Because of what happened.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on